Welcome everyone, my name is Tiffany, I'm the Tipsy Artist, and today we're painting this super cute wooden sign. And when you order with us, I'm doing a little sample here, but we will have pre-drilled holes up here for hanging, which is really awesome. And then it does come with the traceable line art. And let's talk about our table set up here. So I've got my paint ready to go, some paint plates, napkins, brushes, the paint, our water here, and of course your kit comes with everything that you need. And I did work ahead. I went ahead and did all my tracing here to begin with. So we're going to go ahead and get started. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and start with the lightest colors first on our sunflower here. So we will be using some primary yellow. And by the way, when you open these up as new, there will be a foil liner there, so you'll have to peel that off. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and do a little dollop there. It's about a nickel size dollop. Alright, now some cadmium yellow. Another full size nickel size dollop there. And then let's do a little bit of some cadmium orange off to the side too. We'll be placing that in. And then I went ahead and did a pre-dollop there of some titanium white and then also some Mars black here as well. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and just moisten the brush a little bit and I'll dry it off. I'm going to go ahead and mix up some of this primary yellow and the cadmium yellow. And just a little touch of that titanium white in there too. That'll help give it a nice consistency, help it cover better. Alright, so that's very pretty, very light and bright. And we're going to go ahead and work into the sections of the petals. Again, this is my cadmium yellow, primary yellow, little touch of that white. And as we paint into these shapes, keep in mind too that you can turn it as you go to have a better angle. And then when the paint is this light, it will have your pencil marks bleed through, which helps you figure out where the petal begins and ends. That's kind of nice actually. So you can actually do a little bit of an overpaint and you can see how it's still bleeding through so you don't lose your trace and you don't miss out on where that petal will begin and end. That comes in handy when we come back in and do our outlining later on. I can do a little bit of overpaint on the center because that center will be very dark, so it will easily cover over that. And it turns out I'm going to need a little bit more of this primary yellow, so I'm going to do another big size dollop of that. And if you struggle with any transparency at all, how you hold the brush is really crucial. So you want to hold it more over to the flat side of that brush, parallel, and hold your handle more parallel to the canvas, or the wood piece here in this case. And that will help give you a lighter hand. Allows a lot more of that paint to just rest right on the surface area. Let's do some of this cut-in work. You may have to switch over to a smaller brush for your comfort level. So keep in mind, we do have smaller brushes. By the way, this is Mama, this is Little Buddy, and this is Little Bit. Alright, so I'm going to switch over to my Little Bit here, and we're going to do a little small section in these smaller areas. Just hold it like you'd hold a pencil. And if this gets a little bit fat with paint, you can always just do a little twist into the paint. That still keeps it loaded, but then it does twist it into a nice fine point. So that gives you much more control when you're trying to get into some much smaller areas here. That's about all I can do with the Mama at this point, and rest her in the water. Acrylic paint does set up and dry pretty quickly, so until I get a chance to rinse out that brush completely, I do want to go ahead and let it rest in the water so it does not harden with the paint on it. Just using my Little Bit brush to go ahead and get into these smaller areas. Alright, so that's a great foundation. Now we're going to go ahead and work in some warmer tones, some darker tones into each one of those petals. So I'm going to go ahead and push down into some of this Cadmium Orange and the Cadmium Yellow. And we'll start from that center. And follow that, what kind of feels like a parentheses. And the yellow underneath is still wet, so we get a nice soft blend. Those two colors meeting for the first time. So pull out from the center and then lift off with a light hand when we get to that little tip top there. And then I'll skip one. And again, it kind of feels like I do a little parentheses. And then remember to start from the center here. Do short little quick strokes and pull out and lift off with a light hand. And again, I'm still pushing into that Cadmium Orange and the Cadmium Yellow. Now I skipped one. And I skip one. So every other petal will kind of follow in with these darker, warmer tones here. turning your wood so you can have a better vantage point here. And with some of these I want to have a little bit more of a softer blend in. If the paint has set up, so I'll work back in some of just that primary yellow. A little bit of overpaint here, so I'm going to take Little Buddy, a little bit of clean water, do a little bit of cleanup there. A little bit of clean water, and I just picked up that extra paint and rinse it off. Going back a little bit, picking up some of that Cadmium Orange and Cadmium Yellow. And we're going to continue on with those little petals. And again, we're alternating each petal here. And again, that stroke kind of feels like a parentheses and a parentheses. So that's an easy shape that we're all familiar with. The brain says, I know how to do that. This one, I want that primary yellow to kind of softly blend in with that. Very nice. And occasionally if you have some soft feathering to do to kind of work back in anything that maybe seems a bit contrasting and too stark and not well blended, then work back in with your primary yellow and just come right back in right over the top while the paint's still wet, and then take it from the reverse side, just kind of soften that out a little bit. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and rinse out again, still keeping it light. I'm going to rinse out my mama brush. We're going to actually go in with some white paint at this point. Do this background here around the sunflower. Get all of our white done next. Alright, so we have some titanium white here nearby. Again, a visual on that paint. It's right over here. So that does come in your kit. And I'm going to go ahead and spread this on over the surface area here in the background. And I'll work it on in like little crisscross strokes here. Now to get into some of these small areas, may have to switch over to a smaller brush. Yep, we will. Alright, so here is a little bit. Just dip right into that white. And then I'll work in between the little petals here. But only in the small area, so as soon as we get to a larger area, then I will feather out those brush strokes. the bigger brush with my mama brush. Just kind of feather that out. Turn that handle a little bit more over to the side, kind of crisscross it back out, give it a textural feel. And I'll just continue working this all the way around. Using these two brushes, a little bit to get into the small areas and then mama to work into the larger areas. You don't want to see a bunch of straight lines one way and then this way, so that's why I come back in, I do this little cross stroke where it looks like I make tiny little X's over and over again. Gives it a nice varied pattern. It's a nice texture. It helps reflect the light really nicely. We'll just keep moving the circle, makes it easier to reach into these spaces here. Remember to kind of crisscross it back out. Nice texture here. Alright, so we've got some great work done there up there at the top. And then we're also going to paint into our lettering here. And then this fine detail work here with the white as well. Alright, so I've got my little buddy brush. Grab some more of that titanium white. I'm going to start working that into these little letters here. This is going to be some teamwork between little buddy and little bit. Bit of overpaint happening there, so I'll lift off a little bit of water and a little bit. So just about every big spot that I can work Little Buddy into, I'll try to get that done, but just about done with Little Buddy. He's just getting to be too big. Let's rinse out, dry off. Let's go back in with a little bit and just that titanium white paint there. And just hold it like a pencil and just work into those smaller little areas. That's my little dog over there sneezing. That's Miss Ira. And if you need to feather it out, get more actual paint to rest on the surface, we're going to kind of hold that brush back over to the side. Just kind of lightly feather that out. That's looking really great. Now we can continue working in the design here. Almost looks like little teardrops come down to a little point. Remember, if it gets a little bit full with too much paint, twist it out. And pencil hold, just lining out this design. Lots of reloading has to be done. It's a small brush, so it does run out of paint pretty quickly. is looking beautiful. And we're going to have to do some cut-in work here with the black. That's going to be one of our last steps. Alright, so that's a great foundation. I'm going to go ahead and rinse out. Now we're going to come back in with some brown in that center. So we need to mix up some brown. So we still have some cadmium orange over here and our Mars black. So I'm going to use my little fatty brush. I'm going to pick up that cadmium orange and that little touch of black, just tiny little touch of it, work that in, and that will give us brown. You can add more orange to lighten it up a little bit more. Let's get that under the light so you can see that. So I'm going to go ahead and just work in the center. Crisscross that back out. I think a little bit more orange. Another dollop there. Very pretty. Now we're going to do a little bit of some texture. So I'm going to take a little bit of that black and we're just going to tap, tap, tap all the way around. So kind of tap, tap, tap on the side of the brush. Again, this is just a little bit of that black. It extends just slightly over the petals. It's already really helping. We'll do another little loop of that all the way around. And then another loop will be a little bit lighter. So we're going to come back in with some of that orange. I'm just going to tap in a little loop of that. We'll put that cadmium yellow there too. Kind of tap that in, a little loop. Looks like we make a little donut. Back in a little more black. Kind of help soften that up. Tap into that a bit more. That's a nice little subtle blend into it, so it's not so stark over the top. And then I'm going to come back in with a little touch of black and work in the center as well. A little circle in there. Alright, so that is looking lovely. I'm going to go ahead and rinse out. See, see how it's coming along. All right, let's dry off. Okay, so now we need to do a little tiny outline of that brown, and I'm gonna add a little bit of water on my plate. Make sure you don't get it on your surface here. So I want this to be almost kind of watercolor-like. So I've added quite a bit of water to it. This will give me a nice faint line to work around the petals. I'm gonna do a little twist into it to give me a lot of precision there. And then I'm gonna go ahead and line my petals out with this. And so that water helps make it a bit more fluid. And as you get towards the tip, then you're gonna kind of lift off with a light hand. Sort of had a blunt ending there, so I worked back into it with a bit more of that yellow. Little tiny strokes, just lift off with a light hand. Okay, twist it back out to get a nice fine point. Get around the petal, lift off with a light hand. Little tiny strokes from the center. Add a lot more water, make it a bit more subtle. Do a few little, almost like little petal wrinkles here. Kind of wiggle the brush, pull it out, lift off with a light hand. It's looking gorgeous. I'm coming back in with a bit more of that primary yellow. I'm just going to do, got a little bit of that residual rust that's on there, so it's kind of mixed in just a little bit. Just coming back into those background petals. Got a little piece of debris there. That was kind of freaking me out. Gorgeous. Let's go ahead and rinse out. Okay, now we have a lot of black to do. Actually, I need to do my little green leaves next. Oh, I forgot about those. Let's turn this around. Let's go ahead and pull out some bright yellow green. Full size, nickel size dollop of that. Let's do some cadmium green. Another full size dollop. Some shading, we've got some Viridian. It's quite lovely. Let's take a close-up look. There we go. Let's use a little bit. Let's mix the light ones together. Bright yellow green, cadmium green. Do a little twist. And I'm just going to do a little line here. A soft curve, and here on this side again a little soft curve. And I think I'm going to add a little bit of a sage quality to this. I'm going to grab some white, teeny tiny touch of the black, mix those together, bright yellow green. Water. Right. And then off to the side here, it's going to look like we do a parentheses and then another parentheses. Pull that in. So here's another thing of another dollop of white, a little tiny touch of the black, and our bright yellow green. Let's add some water to make it more fluid, easier to move. Parentheses, parentheses, connect to that stem. Work it at an angle. And we'll do that all the way down. We need a little bit of darkness, a little bit of shadow. We can add some of that Viridian to it. Alright, so we have our beautiful leaves done now. We'll go ahead and rinse out. Dry off. Okay, we're going to be working in black for a while now. So we're going to work on the hard part first, which is the little details. So I'm going to be using my little kiddos first. We'll start with a little bit. Make sure it's dry, but we also might want to add just a little bit of water to make the paint more fluid and easier to move. Definitely want to be careful that you don't do this over your painting. I've got my plate completely covering here. Bridging the gap. Do a little spin. And so I'll start to work this into the small areas. By the way, your paint kit also comes with a permanent marker. So that can also help as a nice little cheat when you're working in around these small letters. Certainly allowed. You just want to make sure that your paint is completely dry, or it will kill your Sharpie instantly and render it useless. So that's the one caution. But if your paint's all dry, then you can easily come in and work in the details. Great. Grab some more water here. Always feel free to kind of keep turning this to have a much better angle. Also keeps you from resting your hand maybe into some areas you've already painted, so be careful of that. Just take it nice and slow. Be really patient with it. It does take a while. Done with details, but I still need to do a little bit of work around the lettering. But I need to make sure it's very thin. This is a great time for you to maybe cheat, as I mentioned, with the permanent marker. So your kit comes with that. My paint's still not even dry, so I can't even do it. But let all this dry and then do that. But I'm also going to show you how to do it with paint anyway, so I'm going to do it. Nice twist here. Paint's really watery so that it will be more fluid, easier to move, and also a lot more delicate. So I'm just going to barely kind of touch, real gentle. So that's going to make that lettering really pop out to the front. You just want to act like you're barely touching the board. And that paint being very, very watery is also a huge help. Almost has a watercolor quality to it. See how that's really helping? Do a nice twist into it, get it thinned out. Wow, nice. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and give a little bit of rest, rinse out, dry off. I'm going to go back in with Mama. She's been ready to go for a while. So we're just working back in our Mars black into all of this background. And sometimes the pattern of the stroke can show up when it dries. So I encourage you to always kind of crisscross it out. Looks like you make little letter X's over and over again, just like that. That will create a nice texture. Always follow up with that. Make that your ending stroke. And I need to get closer. Gosh, be careful. Get to this side where I can do this precise line here. The other thing you can do too is you can use a ruler or the edge of your paint box. If everything's dry, you can use your permanent marker to make that line. Just cross it out, feather it out. Go to the other side. Turn it. Almost done. It's very exciting. Lovely. All right, so here is our hello sign. Very pretty. And again, you'll have pre-drilled holes up here, and the kit comes with twine, so it makes it really easy for hanging. So, but this gives you a great idea of how it works. So it's very lovely. Of course, we make all this easy with our little traceable line art in the very beginning. But it says hello. Yes, Alright, so this has been so fun, very relaxing, and you can find all the supplies, everything that you need on our website, tipsyartist.com. I'll be sure to provide the link for y'all as well. But y'all have a beautiful rest of the day, and we'll see you soon. Toodles!